You said.
Awesome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of the Mansfield Downtown Partnership Board of Directors to order for January 6th, 2022. Cynthia, as you indicated, there is no public comment to share at this point. And if I could draw everybody's attention to item 3 on the agenda, the approval of the minutes from December 2nd, 2021. That attachment is in your packet as item 3. I'll give you a moment to review and then would ask for a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the minutes of December 2nd, 2021.
Thanks, Brad. Can I have a second?
Second.
Steve gives a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Fantastic. So the meeting, the minutes have passed. Item 4 on our agenda is the beefy one for this particular meeting. We are talking about the downtown store strategic plan. We are looking to approve or looking to approve that plan and briefly discuss some next steps. So the plan is in your packet. I know everybody's familiar with it. I will tell you, Cynthia and myself and Larissa did have the opportunity this week to meet and review the strategic plan with Hart Realty and Oak Tree Capital. Received some input from them and proposed to them some involvement in the implementation of the strategic plan, as well as the potential for some elevated involvement, investment, and commitment level to the partnership generally. And I guess where I'd leave that is that it was they didn't tell us to pound sand. They were relatively receptive. Number one, to the strategic plan, and number two, to the idea that that we as a board and we as a partnership have a desire for them as property owners and to become more invested in the space. To make sure that the businesses that they host are more invested or as invested as they can be in the space. So I thought, and Cynthia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the conversations with both of those groups went very well. I think Larissa thought that it went well. As I said, the plan I thought was well received. We passed along some additional information to them as well, to make them just based on some things that they had asked about and different things along those lines. So we will, one of the takeaways from that meeting with the property owners individually is that we are going to be scheduling here in the short term a group meeting with the property owners to get them all around the table at the same time, still a smaller group, and really not for any specific purpose. It's really, more because I think we're hearing from the property owners, but I don't think we want to have a comfort level and a confidence that the property owners are hearing from the other property owners, and that there's an understanding of the direction that they're all headed, and that there's some level of alignment as far as that is concerned. So I know, Cynthia, do we want to talk about next steps before do we want to approve? Do we want to look to approve the plan, generally speaking, and then sort of recommend the next steps in that motion, or do we want to talk through that here at this point? Tony?
I have a question about the meeting. Was
Yep.
there any discussion about any of them joining the board?
There was, well, I'll put it this way. There was a discussion with them about a significantly increased level of investment on an annual basis. Certainly not similar in amount to what UConn and the town of Mansfield contribute to the partnership. But what we said to them is we think it's important that they become a part of the partnership. That certainly can and would include potential board membership, but that it would need to come with guaranteed investment, and not us having to come to them every year and negotiate an amount and talk about, whether they feel like they want to invest in this event or that event or anything along those lines. Similar to what the town and what UConn do. It's a line item, and the town of Mansfield and UConn support the partnership, and we hope and expect that the property owners would decide after having met with us and going through the strategic plan and me proposing to them that there be a level of financial investment on an annual basis from them, that they'll come back to us hopefully in the next couple weeks and let us know that they've decided that will work for them. Now, I'm comfortable that we've over-asked from them, over-asked in terms of what we would hope and expect that they might consider committing in terms of financial commitment. Part of that is Larissa did a pretty comprehensive study and a lot of research relative to the value of the properties that they manage, and compared that to other communities, the mill rates, et cetera. So the numbers are not insignificant. So but what we made clear to the property owners is that an annual investment, and again, this is my opinion, but I stated it to them sort of as a pathway. If hypothetically Hart and Oak Tree were to become a part of the partnership, were to maybe have a seat on the board, and make an annual contribution, we wouldn't then be coming to them saying, can we have $1,000 for the Celebrate Mansfield Festival? Can we have a $500 contribution for Winter Welcome? Quite frankly, depending on the level of investment that either Hart or Oak Tree or any of the other property owners were to make, I think there's an argument to be made that we wouldn't need the individual businesses within those properties to be contributing their annual amount if the investment were enough from the property owners. Again, I think the theme of the conversation was Mansfield and UConn have skin in the game relative to downtown stores and put their money where their mouth is, and we need the property owners to do the same. And if we are to execute significant elements of this strategic plan, we can only do that if the property owners invest in the partnership at a committed, guaranteed rate over, and this wouldn't be we'll commit to doing this for 1 year. No, I think I would, and Cynthia, I hope I was clear. We would expect that this would be a multi-year commitment on their part, where, we would say to them, we don't want one of them to do, 20 grand or 30 grand or 50 grand and then pull it back the next year, because we can't operate that way, obviously. So, so I think the expectation would be that, that we'll be having follow-up conversations with them, and, and letting them know, hey, we're happy with the strategic plan. We think it really lays out some interesting and challenging opportunities for the partnership and for the town and for the university. We believe that the property owners agree with that and think that there's, some real optimism. There was some in the meeting. but that we can't do it without them. So they can be as optimistic about it as they want, but if they're not going to contribute to it and invest in it, then we're not going to be able to move forward with parts of it. So, and that's whether that's time, effort, people, money. We need them to become real partners, not simply, sharing space with us.
Can I follow up with two more questions?
Sure.
Were the owners of the apartments present?
They were not. No, we
I
did not.
usually refer to them as okay.
We did not.
I think we need to pull
Right.
that group in too.
Yeah, we did.
Partly because they've been much more supportive, and
Correct.
they might swing the balance a little. And my second question was did Larissa's presentation on numbers indicate that the tax rate in the town of Mansfield wasn't outrageous?
I defer to you, Cynthia. I don't think, I think comparatively to the communities that I think Larissa, there were 3 communities, am I correct? It was I think it was Hartford, Bridgeport, and there might have been one out of state community. I think there might have been was it Amherst? I can't remember off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
so, yeah, thanks, Kyle. So it was Northampton, Bridgeport, and Hartford. So what we were able to provide Larissa, Tony, was the value of the 2 properties. So the Oak Tree piece and the Hart piece. And then Larissa used, I think she used 3% as the rate. And so that's how she came up with the ask that we made. And as Kyle mentioned, it's significant, but it gives some, it was high, but it gives us some room to work with them. So I feel pretty confident they will do something. So we'll just have to kind of play that out. They're supposed to get back to us on that. I did want to just mention that the third piece, so along with the board involvement and the financial commitment, the other thing we asked is that they work with us on a tenanting strategy, and that's part of the strategic plan. That's one of the strategies that Larissa and Nora put together. So that's kind of what Kyle referred to as this next meeting. So a few of us from the board, and then the folks from Hart and Oak Tree to at least start a conversation. I mean, you can imagine there's, they all know each other, I guess, the New England folks, and but there's competition too. So it's so we'll see how that plays out. But I think they were more than willing to have a follow-up meeting in the very near future.
And actually, to expand on that just a little, I think, Cynthia and I have been having regular meetings with the group from Hart. We hadn't been having them as regularly with Oak Tree. I think obviously Hart, was the bigger owner, the more valuable property, was certainly a bigger ask. I think their response was predictable relative to that. I think for the Oak Tree group, they've got a little bigger challenge, not as familiar certainly with the space, this particular group of individuals, and they have the certainly a more challenging space. And I think part of that too is, there's probably, or the most definitely is going to be a necessity on their part in order to get some of their spaces back in use. They're going to have to invest pretty significantly in some of those spaces. I mean, we keep talking about Grill 86 and, I don't know. I mean, I think they may even be reaching the point where they understand that, they may have to divide Grill 86 up into spaces rather than think that you're going to actually be able to do it at the size that it is. I mean, it's just, it's unwieldy, but the thing I would say, they definitely mentioned, based on the proximity of a lot of their space, they are focused more on utilizing stuff as office space rather than simply retail. I think they believe that there's a little more of a market for that than maybe there has been in the past. So again, optimistic. I think both of them will be pleasantly surprised that they're probably more in alignment strategically than they might think. And really, that's, I think, ultimately the goal for us, is to get them around the same table, to be able to have a conversation. And as I said, I think all these meetings have been incredibly beneficial. The ones that we've been having with Hart regularly, certainly to have ears on what might be going on, whether we can share that publicly or not is irrelevant. It's important because we can let the town manager know, and we can let the mayor know, and we can let the university president know, so that nobody's surprised. And I think that ultimately, it has to be one of our goals as a partnership board, is to stay in as close communication with these folks. And to me, the next step to that is to really get them to invest in the partnership to an equal level. Makes it easier for all of us to go to the town and to UConn leadership and say, okay, you know what, we actually made some really, really amazing progress, and we've gotten the property owners to invest to whatever level it might be. Because almost anything that we get from them is going to be more than we're getting right now. I know I saw hands that they're, yeah, Frank.
What was there a specific ask made of each? Did you give a number? And was that based
Yes.
on Larissa's number?
It was.
And so was it based mostly on their capacity or what our need was?
It was based on, it was pretty much based on value of the property and that 3% mill rate.
Is there expectation of a follow-up proposal from us or is it?
No, I think,
or we're just waiting
I
now?
think more a follow-up meeting with each group to, I think, in a week I'll be following up with them, and,
Okay.
Depending on what level of responsiveness there is, then, if there's a necessity to make some type of a formal ask, we would do that. I think they seemed quite clear on what we were looking for. And both, their immediate response was, this is the first we're hearing of this, obviously, because it was the first that, we didn't prep them that we were going to ask them for a financial contribution or talk about potential board membership. But so they wanted, obviously, to revisit that offline with their own teams to see, candidly, the Hart group was pretty clear that they would not be able to invest at the level that we were asking them to, but that's okay. I mean, we were asking them for a lot. So
Okay. If you need any follow-up help, I'm happy to jump on board.
absolutely. Fantastic. Yes, Tony.
The argument that we've heard in the past is that the taxes in town are so high for them that we shouldn't be asking them to give us any more money because they're already taxing life out of them. And that's one of the reasons that I thought it's not EDR anymore. I don't know. What are we
Greystar?
calling the apartment owners?
Greystar?
Greystar? Yeah. One of the reasons Greystar ought to be included is that they have never complained about tax.
I will say, Tony, the T word did not come up at all. It was wonderful.
Right.
It did not come up at
my
all.
guess is when they go back and they talk to their staff, that's what they're going to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's come up before, certainly Josh and others, but, Josh is the co-CEO. So, we're sort of dealing with people at pretty high level. So I actually think they're probably going to talk to the folks that were on the call. I don't know that there's a lot of other people that they need to talk to. I think it's amongst themselves. I could be wrong, Kyle, but maybe
Well,
there's one or two
well,
other folks, but
Yeah,
generally.
I didn't get the sense, that they would need to go too far to come back with an answer, and I think I touched on this. I mean, I was pretty clear with them, that the town and Yukon each contribute 150,000, and that Yukon, in addition to that 150, is is leasing one of the biggest, or perhaps the cornerstone space within the Hart property, and the Yukon Health spaces are also massive, and not to mention that Yukon is renting upwards of 18 to 20 spaces within the Oaks. So both the town and Yukon are incredibly invested in this financially. So we don't, and so basically what I said to them was, we wouldn't ask you to do anything that our biggest partners aren't already doing, and they are doing it, and we need you to do it too, because we're tired of having to host a bake sale every time we want to host an event. We don't want to have to keep going. The tenants feel as if they're in a brutal spot, because it's hard to say no when Kathleen or Denise or Cynthia show up at the door saying, we really want to do the Celebrate Mansfield Festival. Will you support it? Well, of course they're going to support it, but it would be nice if we didn't have to go to them to ask for that. It would be nice if the property owners were contributing to a level that would allow us to fund those events without having to fundraise those events. And those events don't take a lot to run, generally speaking, in the grand scheme of things, budget-wise. So, as I said, I'm hopeful that that they'll see the benefit to a long-term investment, a seat at the table. But I'm also fully prepared for them to come back and say, you know what, we talked about it and we just can't do anything. And you know what, that's fine too. And then our answer will be, okay, well, those 6 pages in the strategic plan that you thought were awesome, we're skipping those 6 because we can't afford it, and we don't have the people, and we don't have the resources. We're going to go to the pages that benefit the town and the partnership, and are the most affordable and efficient to get knocked out. And when you're ready to invest, we'll go back to those other pages. So. Any other comments or questions about the strategic plan? And Cynthia, do we want to talk a little bit on next steps, just briefly, before we ask for a motion to approve?
Yeah, so Noor from Street Sense has started the implementation matrix with some milestones, and she'll finalize that after we meet with her and Larissa next week. So Sean and Kyle and I are meeting, and Kathleen will meet with Larissa and Noor next Thursday. I think it's the 13th at 9, to kind of tighten up that implementation matrix. And then pretty much Larissa and Noor are gone for 3 months. And then they come back in 3 months as part of the contract. We do a check-in, see how things are going. So then really it's the next steps, as I outlined in the memo, is determining what entity, whether it's the ad hoc steering committee that we sort of, bring back in and decide who's on that group, or a little more flexible working group that we might bring on board, or not bring on board. And in your packet, I noted I'm sorry, Kyle, I'm just going on and on. Is that okay? So Noor and Larissa's recommendation is this ad hoc working group, which again was in the strategic plan. I can bring it up if you want me to. It's kind of toward the back. I think I noted what page it was on, page 34, because they thought it was more flexible. And our ad hoc steering committee could still include people that are not part of the board. It could be the property owners. It could be a community member, or and I think their thinking was it would be a group that would sort of be flexible where people could come in and out depending on what strategy we're working on. Because we do have 19, and again, we'll focus, as Sean has suggested, on the tier 1 and the ones that are already in progress. So, so the way that I set up the motion, which I know is not on the table yet, but that we would determine, or you all would determine what method of implementation would you like to proceed with?
Kyle, would you like the motion?
Do we want to clarify whether it's a committee or a working group? Maybe just clarify that we'd like it to be a working group.
Yeah.
I mean, that's certainly my preference. I think provides us the most flexibility. So yeah, I mean, Tony, I would love the motion, and if it could be that we recommend a working group rather
Right.
than, yep.
Okay, I move to approve the downtown stores strategic plan and recommend that a working group, structure dependent on board decision, be authorized to lead the implementation of the downtown stores strategic plan.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Kara? And all in favor? Any opposed? Fantastic. Well, thank you. And a shout out to Sean. I know that you obviously spend a lot of time on this, and I hope you're ready to spend a lot more, because there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done, but I appreciate that because I know it's not easy, and we all have a lot, on our regular plates, and but really appreciate the work that you put into that, and certainly Cynthia, obviously, keeping the trains running on time here with this. It's, I think it's really, there's a lot there, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but I think it's going to be, really beneficial, and, it's going to be something that's going to make a huge difference, I hope. So thank you, everybody, for that. Let's move on to item 5 on our agenda, which is the executive director report. Cynthia.
Thanks, Kyle. Just a couple of things. I did want to update you. I did hear from Emily, and she is working a few hours remotely each day. She's stepping back from the partnership for a little while. So Kyle has graciously agreed to temporarily step in to chair the festival. We do have a meeting next week. But I know Emily is very appreciative of everybody's support, and we just keep her in our thoughts. So, and I think you all got the email that I sent from John Bell a couple of weeks ago. I have my our admin assistant position. I just ready to go to out on the street, so to speak. I met with the HR folks at the town today, and hopefully we'll be getting that job out. Again, this is 19 hours a week to help with economic development, but also to help with admin work in the office, not just, partnership and economic development work. So we'll probably have it out for about 3 weeks. So in a perfect world, we'd have somebody in place by beginning of March would be the hope. We haven't talked, I don't think, since Winter Welcome, because it was the Saturday after our last meeting. So I think we had a great turnout. Well, I feel like it's one of our largest turnouts ever. So I want to thank Sean and Tony for their help. And I know Steve was there and Frank was there. We did a little bit of a debrief. I think certainly one of the things is trying to bring sort of the display tables closer together. There was sort of this void kind of walking from different tables, and they were so amazing. I mean, people put so much work into it, and the trees were just, it was just incredible. So, we'll, Denise is, she's focused on the festival and the bike tour right now, and a couple of other town events that we're working on, but I think it was a good event. And I think that's all for, for my report, unless anybody has any questions or comments or suggestions about Winter Welcome.
Cynthia, this is Ryan.
Oh yeah, Ryan was there too. Sorry, Ryan.
Oh, that's okay. I was there preoccupied with my family, so I can't say I was providing much in the way of professional support. I was there probably more in dad mode, but actually in my capacity as dad, one of the things I took note of when my second grader was singing carols with her music class. I think it's called the Songbirds or something to that effect. In any case, noticed that the acoustics, like in terms of microphones, the sound system for, I guess, whatever you'd call the way they were doing live performances there was pretty rough. I mean, for what was happening and as far as the kids getting enjoyment out of it, it was probably fine, but you couldn't really necessarily hear what was being sung. So I'm sure this has come up before in terms of speakers on the stage and whether or not, I was wondering like if you could have hanging microphones even just to kind of really project the sound for live performances a little better. So certainly not an audio visual expert by any means, but it just seemed like for those sorts of I guess fun things, whatever you want to call them, that are going on during various fall and winter festivals, it would be nice to have. So.
No, I appreciate that, Ryan. And we heard that from several people. I mean, it's something we need to build into the budget too, because we just, I don't know if Amanda brought the mic. I can't remember. I wasn't that involved. The other thing that was a little different is normally the singing's at the end. And we also don't normally have like the trees and things going on in the square, which I think was a great addition. So we do need to figure that one out. So that's definitely on our radar, but I thank you for mentioning it.
Anything for Cynthia? Okay, fantastic. So let's move on to item 6, which is reports from committees and working groups. I know we have something from Finance and Growth. Do we have anything from Celebrate Mansfield, Cynthia? I don't know if I don't know if they met before or since the last meeting. I would imagine not, but
Nope, the first meeting is Tuesday.
I think it's next
At
week.
5.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, great. So Tony, why don't I turn it over to you for Finance and Growth report?
Okay, so it's the financial statements as of September 30th. Our fiscal year begins July 1st, so this is basically the first quarter. There's nothing particularly interesting here except that our revenues have exceeded our expenditures in the first quarter, which is not unexpected because the university has made its full payment, and I think the town has made part of its payment. But I'm going to ask Cynthia to do the details, if she would.
Yeah, of course. So I'll just try and hit the highlights. Again, as Tony mentioned, nothing really earth shattering. So if you go to, and I hand wrote in the page numbers at the bottom, but if you go to page 4, which is our statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Again, as Tony mentioned, UConn pays its commitment up front and the town pays it on a quarterly basis. So that's what you're seeing there. So that includes the operating budget and then the piece for economic development and admin. We'll start our membership campaign probably the end of this month, next month. That's one of the things, the revenue consultant, that we'll need to talk to whatever working group we come up with, because the timing may not work out so well in terms of trying to get some funding in before we get that plan developed. Under the page 5, so the fund 270 fund on our events, you'll see we're in the black. Again, this was through, as Tony said, through September 30th. So under Winter Welcome, you're not seeing the contributions from Heart and Oak Tree. So that's why you're seeing that balance at 149. We have sent our expenditure budgets to the finance department. So those are actually reflected in the expenditure budgets over in the far left column. I'm just going to, well, I should note, actually, since we are talking about public spaces. So on page 6, well, two things. We do have $12,665 in the account for the town square. So when our implementation group works, I think we need to, or meets, we need to think about that funding. And then also the funding that we have from Nature's Medicine still, which is about $43,000. So I think Sean and Kyle, you know, when we get together next week and we start forming that group, you know, budget needs to be part of our discussion, but we have actually a decent start on the public spaces, which is exciting. Don't know that there's any, the only other thing will be on page 9. So the parking garage revenue, you'll see the net income through September was 20,000. That's going to go down pretty significantly because we had the switch over from the Amano system to the Flash system, and there were some glitches, surprise, surprise. So the gates were up for probably almost a month. So that doesn't affect the Oaks and the businesses all paying their full freight, but for transient revenue, people generally were not paying, but we're all set now. But I just, you know, when you see the, the December financials, you'll see that in November of this year. And I think that's all I had, Tony, unless you had anything else on the financials or people have any questions.
I had a quick question on page 5. I was looking for how, so when people send in their membership, they had an option of making a contribution to a program. Wouldn't that show up in revenue, in this revenue column distributed, or is it just coming into the general, you know, membership fund previously stated, and it's not broken out by event? It would be helpful to see it, you know, who's contributing to what funds, what activities. Is there another place I could find that? Or maybe I'm just not looking in the right spot.
No, well, yes and no. Yes, Denise and Kathleen, you know, Kathleen does the concerts, but Denise does the rest of the events. So we have that all in a spreadsheet. Frank, we don't, this is part of what the town finance department does for us. So if you all want those reports, we can do it every quarter or however you want to do it. But Denise does have that. It's generally the person's name, the amount, probably their email, it could be their address.
You know, I guess I'm not asking. I just want to make sure if it was broken out that way with these financials, I'd be interested in it. But given that you have sort of a format that works now for this purpose, I'm not going to ask for it for this, but maybe when we have a separate work group on membership, I might look for some additional detail on those numbers. Thank you.
Sure.
Can I ask a question around this? If I sent in my membership and I said I want $20 of this to go to the movies, would that $20 show up in the movies column on this page?
Yes.
It would.
It's embedded in there as far as revenues. Yes.
Thank you. Except there's no revenues on a whole bunch of these, on several of these items. Have people made does that mean that nobody has made a contribution to those areas?
So those are the revenues that are currently existing in the kitties, not the kitty, in the what the balance is.
Okay, so it doesn't say where we started out from. It's only what was there as of September 30th.
Right. Right.
It may have been spent or not received yet.
Correct.
So these are just from June 1st to the first quarter to 9/30. any
That's
gifts
right.
that have been made, right?
Right.
But our drive is not until it's upcoming. So
Exactly.
yeah, so we can't really get a sense of what our predicted revenues might be for those activities from this report.
No, so Denise is just actually finishing up budgets for all our events for next year. So she has the task list and then she has budgets for all the events. So that'll show predicted revenue and expenditures. And then the line where it's expenditure budget, that's the only thing that the town finance department cares about. And it's all, it's predicting what our expenditure budget is, but it gives us something to go on in terms of just making sure we don't, go in the red. But we track that all internally too, so.
But you could look at this and say a general goal for us is to raise the expenditure budget through membership and donations, contribution sponsorships, as a rule of thumb.
On the other hand, if we could get the owners to fill those slots with numbers, we wouldn't have to, as Kyle said, hold a bake sale every time we want to do something.
Strategy. I mean, it's great to have it covered. I also like participation. It's nice to see participation. I don't mind those $20 checks, because if you write a check, you're more likely to show up to an event because you feel like you paid for it, in a sense. So I like the small donations too.
Thanks, Kyle. Hi, everyone. Regarding the LAS issue with the gate, Cynthia, does that result in a month's loss of revenue to just LAS, or do we lose revenue from that as well?
Just last, so with a parking agreement, they are fully responsible, whether they make money or don't make money, to pay the town for the repair and replacement fund. So, which is, I think, about up to $57,000 a year. It's based on the CPI. So the town finance department works with me and Ryan to, send an invoice basically to LAS every year around August.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tony.
I should have brought this up during Cynthia's report. Is there any idea what the consequence of the delayed opening of UConn is going to produce?
I mean, the Oaks residents, regardless of whether they're here or not here, they still have to pay for their parking. The businesses, that won't change too much. It's really the transient parkers. So, I don't know if anything's changed from the 2-week delay or not, but maybe Sean or Kyle or Kara have an update, or Frank, but yeah, I mean, it's it has an effect. I don't think it's huge right now, but it depends how long it goes on. Hopefully it won't go longer than that, but. So I see Kara says no changes in the chat, so.
Well, that would be for LAS, but how about the rest of downtown?
Yeah, I mean, this is always a difficult time because you have from December, although I think this semester was later this year, right? I think it went till the 15th or so. So you already know till January 17th, it's going to be a month of it being slower. So yeah, I mean, I think it will affect them somewhat. You just hope that it's just the 2 weeks, which it looks like it is right now. I mean, I guess I can't tell you, Tony, exactly without asking, I mean, I think we also, I haven't seen any businesses downtown like closed for a day or two because of COVID, but that's an issue too. Because I definitely know some staff at some of the restaurants have had COVID. So that affects their business model, obviously.
Well, UConn left early because they sent kids home after Thanksgiving, and now they're delaying it to the end of January, the return. It is a much larger winter break than normal.
No,
And
they
that-
were here, Tony.
Yeah, we
They-
didn't send
they were
anybody
here.
home. That was a year.
That was the year
ago.
before. Sorry,
Oh.
Karen.
Okay. It's all a blur.
Yeah, and we are accepting requests for students to arrive before the end of the month, but those requests, I think, were due today, Kara. I think today was the deadline for Res Life, so we don't know how many students actually applied for that. It would not be a great experience to come early and sit in a residence hall.
Right,
So
but
I don't,
it shouldn't have an impact on the Oaks move-in hypothetically. I mean, if a student that lives in the Oaks wants to come back the normal weekend because classes are starting anyway, they can. Obviously, there won't be any activities for them on campus, but I mean, frankly, hopefully, I don't know. I don't know if we want them to come or not at this point. It's hard to keep up, but.
Well, in the 2 weeks, don't forget, they're coming back for 2 weeks in red, which means they're really not supposed to be leaving their residence halls. Even those that are getting the exception for the 2 weeks are not supposed to be going anywhere.
So Kara, is that just depends on how things go, when that would go off of red, obviously.
I mean, the goal is, yeah, absolutely, that we go back into orange when everyone moves in after the 2 weeks. So we'll just see what happens.
That in the chat there as well. Anything else on this particular committee report? Or I know, are there any other committee reports? Frank, do you have any updates?
I'm sorry, Kyle.
Do we have to
Oh,
move? Can I make them?
Yeah, we do have to move,
accept
right?
the-
That's, yep, correct.
Accept the partnership's September 30, 2021 financial reports.
So that's a motion from Frank. Can I get a second? Tony? All in favor? Any opposed? Great. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that.
And I'm sorry, Kyle. Tony, do you want to briefly mention that the committee also looked at the budget?
Why don't you do that? Because
Okay.
my mind just went blank.
Yeah, that's okay. No, yeah. So the committee did take a look at the initial budget, made a couple of changes. Well, two main changes. One is to change the suggested increase for staff to make it a little closer to what the town staff is getting this fiscal year, whereas this would be for July 1st. And then we, at my suggestion / recommendation, we are no longer going to be paying for our parking in the parking garage. And I didn't get any pushback from Laz. So the partnership is paying for that out of its operating budget. It's not a lot of money, but it's $600. So for us, $600 is, gives us money to do something else. So July 1st, that will start. And yeah. And so I will bring the budget back to the finance committee in a couple of weeks for kind of its final sign off. It's with the finance department at the town, and then we'll bring it to the board probably in February or March.
We've also been discussing both with the town and the university an increase in the town and university contribution from 150 to 160. And that's a significant piece. We had got no negative response from the university, and the town is, although it hasn't gone before the town council yet, there is support for that there too. That would really help with the both with the salary increases and also with the administrative assistant.
Tony, the only thing, the way we left that meeting though, you didn't propose a number for an increase. So I wouldn't want to go public with saying that the university didn't oppose it because I don't think we got an actual number for me to run by anybody.
I think we did, Kara.
Yeah. We were talking about the $10,000 increase per partner.
I mean, we could talk offline, but Kara, if you'd like, I did send in a memo kind of summarizing that meeting. And I
Oh,
didn't hear back
okay.
from anybody, so. Does that make sense, Kara?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Frank, any update from governance?
The governance committee did not meet in December. However, there was a distribution of the assessment survey of all board members, and everybody was, I think today is the deadline, wasn't it? To get to you, Kyle. You may want to check your inbox if there's
No, I
anybody
did.
missing. I'll help.
I did hear from everyone. Yes. So
Fantastic.
the only person I didn't hear from was Sam, but I think we're all aware that Sam's, likely to be stepping off. So.
Yeah. Thank you. That and sort of what related to that, I do want to thank Diana for being involved in our meeting, continue to be involved in our meetings. And it reminds me of that we have a lot of volunteer and board roles to be thinking about pipelines. So thank you for filling in the survey and thinking about the work we have ahead of us with implementing a strategic plan, and who in our communities, both in the town and in Yukon, could help us fulfill some of these roles. And if you could filter those into the governance committee, be greatly appreciated. So thank you, Kyle.
That's it for committee updates, correct, Cynthia?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. So we can move on to number 7, which is correspondence and communications. Obviously the packet includes, a lot of good stuff. Did you want to touch on that first item, Cynthia, in the packet, in the correspondence, the memo from Linda, briefly for everybody, just to touch on it, make sure everybody takes a look at it.
Sure. Yeah. So Linda gave me a heads up, I don't know, about a month ago, Linda Painter, I'm sorry, Director of Planning and Development, that they have been approached by, I think, I'm trying to think what the name of the group was. Starts with a C. Why am I not seeing it in here? That they wanted to do an antenna on the parking garage. And so she needed to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission because they currently weren't allowed in the Store Center Special Design District within 200 feet from a residence. And obviously we have the multifamily residents and the townhomes and condos in the back. So they approved, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved that. So I think I included the minutes, and nothing's gone up yet. But I wanted to just give you a heads up about that, that was something that is probably in the near future going to be on the garage. And I don't know if Ryan wants to add anything, or
I can make a comment.
Tony.
We've seen the images of it. It's basically a box that will hang off the outside. It's very inconsequential. Nobody will even notice it's there. It's not
And I would
a
echo
tower
what
or lights, blinking lights or anything.
it will not protrude from the top of the building or interfere with the skyline.
Steve, did you have something?
I'm sorry, I missed who requested the permission.
We were trying to find that in the, you were trying to find that, Cynthia?
I'm sorry, I guess I missed are we questioning what the company
Who
is?
made the request to put up the antenna?
It's a Verizon tower.
Yeah, but if Verizon contacted us, or who contacted the town?
I'd have to remind myself, it's a company that, per the contract is a doing business as Verizon. So I want to say it's Cellco.
Yes, you're right, Ryan.
Yeah, Cellco.
I'm finding it now. It's called Cellco Partnership. So if you look on the second page of Linda's memo, so they approached Linda and then Linda wanted to make sure that we had a heads up.
And will they be paying to rent the space?
Yes, the first year lease is $30,000, and it'll go up with a annual 2% escalator every year after that.
And that's to the town?
Correct.
Awesome. That's great news.
Any other questions on that? Questions or comments? Fantastic. Okay. And then within item 7, obviously, is in the rest of your packet, there are plenty of articles and other communications that Cynthia and Kathleen and the team put together. So feel free to read about all the good things that were going on. Does anyone have anything else before we call it an evening? Fantastic. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for your your hard work and attentiveness to the strategic plan, especially. I know we were meeting at the beginning of holiday season and coming off Thanksgiving, and everybody trying to get in a groove of the holidays and dealing with the COVID surge and all of those things. So really appreciate everybody's hard work on it. Certainly we're not done yet, but I think we've met a nice milestone here, and really looking forward to continuing to work hard and implement what we can, and I'm optimistic that it'll that'll mean really good things for the downtown. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Tony, can I get a second? And Frank, Kara, I see your little check mark there too. So we can give Kara credit for a check mark.
Yeah, I'm playing around with the reaction.
So all in favor of an adjournment? Say
Aye.
Okay, I assume
Happy
no.
New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody. Have
Yeah,
a
Happy
good
New
year and a
Year.
great weekend. Take care now.
Happy